Hi guys, I'm Morgan Glass. I'm a biochemistry student here at West Virginia University, and today I'm talking to you guys about the ACT and SAT, those dreaded yet necessary standardized exams. But as always, we as Mountaineer mentors are here to help these things not seem as scary and overwhelming. So first off, why does it matter? So standardized test scores are necessary for college entrance and most scholarships. However, this year things might be a little bit different, so be sure to keep up with the schools and scholarships you think you want to apply to. For example, I know that WVU is allowing applications without a standardized test score this year. And you might also be thinking at this time that scores are outdated, obsolete, and shouldn't be that important. And I don't completely disagree. But while test scores don't define you, they do introduce you. They act as a baseline, getting your foot in the door. And the number alone can qualify you for tons of scholarships. And just 1 point can be that difference between hundreds or thousands of dollars for your education. So I'm gonna break this process down into steps, with step 1 being deciding your test. So SAT and the ACT stand for Scholastic Assessment Test and the American College Testing. So they're two different types of tests. The SAT is based on reading, writing, and language, and then math, so two different sections. And the ACT has 4 different sections with English, math, reading, and science reasoning, each being their own. Both are multiple choice exams and take approximately the same amount of time, about 3 hours. Each have an optional essay if you feel that writing is one of your strengths, and some colleges actually will require this component in their application as well. Both exams are accepted by all colleges and universities, so don't need to worry about that. One thing that we recommend is taking each test early on, say the beginning of your junior year, see which test is best for you, and then run with that stronger one. Score comparison charts can be found easily online, and I'll actually show you one when we get into scores. You may also want to consider if one of them is offered for free at your school, or if you felt very comfortable with the PSAT, that might be an indication that you would excel more at the SAT because it's the similar test. Personally, I ended up choosing the ACT because I didn't really like the format of the PSAT, and I wanted the ability to showcase my critical thinking skills in the science reasoning section of the ACT. Once you've decided which test you're going to take, first, we're brought to step 2, which is deciding your test date. So with sports and extracurricular activities, this may be slightly difficult, slightly tricky. I know it definitely was for me, because they're traditionally offered on Saturday mornings and are only given about once every month. So starting early and utilizing the new summer dates in June and July is extremely helpful. To avoid late registration fees, you'll need to register about 1 month in advance. I've listed the costs here. They're pretty similar, with a bit of an increase for the optional writing portions. And definitely look for fee waivers if you're eligible, and work with your counselor for that, because they are definitely out there. Also, make certain that if you feel you need and qualify for testing accommodations, that you request them in advance so that they can be submitted by your registration deadline. Generally, just keep on top of those schedules so you can find the best date for you, and those schedules can be found at act.org for the ACT or collegeboard.org for the SAT. I've linked those below, and those also have tons of other information, so definitely check those out. When choosing your date, you're going to want to look at your schedule and big events and make sure that you can dedicate enough time and energy toward step 3, which is test prep. So you're going to want to try to establish some type of study plan dedicated to time to study and learn the material, learn the exam. You don't want to burn yourself out, but you also want to make sure you are putting in enough time and effort so that when test day rolls around, you're confident in yourself. We recommend having a study plan for about 1 to 3 months, depending on where you're starting and what your goals are. Now, if it's your first time taking the test, the biggest thing is familiarizing yourself with the test itself. You should understand and feel comfortable with test question types, the schedule of the test, timing, and your personal testing strategies, because everyone does better a little bit differently. The best way to do this is by taking practice tests, emulating the real test day as closely as possible. At least once, you're going to want to wake up early, find a designated testing space, and time yourself throughout the test. Use a mock bubble sheet, maybe turn down the AC to the frigid temperature of your high school testing center. Just try to keep it as realistic as possible. Now, if you've gotten to know the test and you want to get into content review, or you have already taken your first test and you want to start working on weaknesses or boosting your strengths even further, there are free low-cost resources to get you there. So first off, the ACT and SAT offer free practice question sets on their website, so you definitely want to check that out. Other sites like Khan Academy, Varsity Tutors, or even the ACT and SAT social media accounts offer free ways to help you get to your target score by giving you some of those practice questions and strategies. If you feel like those styles aren't really for you, I would totally recommend looking for some of those study books to help guide you, like the Princeton Review, Barron's, or the ACT and SAT's own published guides. So all those can be found on Amazon for about $20 to $30, but you may also want to look for slightly older versions at your local or school libraries because they don't really change that much throughout the years. Personally, I loved the Princeton Review for ACT. It offered great content review, multiple practice tests, and testing strategies that I was actually able to use to help boost my score. If you feel like you need extra support or you need a more structured study plan, getting a tutor or going to prep classes might also be the right path for you. So after all of this studying, we are brought to step 4, which is the day, test day. Definitely be prepared the night before. You want to know your test date, time, location, and maybe even parking, because being prepared and early is essential. Earliest is obviously best and allows you to relax before embarking on the test, which can be stressful. And lateness is not accepted, so definitely be prepared. After you're prepared, get some sleep. Cramming never does anyone any good, and it is a long test ahead of you, so you don't want to be like falling asleep. So what you're going to want to bring is your testing ticket printed out. It can't be like a digital copy, it has to be physically printed out. One official photo ID like your license or school ID, multiple number 2 pencils, a permitted calculator. In these times you're going to need a mask, so bring over those. The tests are both long, so you're going to want to either eat before or bring snacks for those break periods. You just don't want to move too far from what your normal routine is, so just try to do that as closely as possible. Specific details on all accepted items can be found on those websites, again, act.org and collegeboard.org. And definitely turn off your phone or don't even bring it in with you. You do not want that to be the thing that messes up your test, especially after your weeks of studying. About 2 anxious weeks after your test date, your scores will come out, bringing us to step 5, getting the score. So these 2 test types are scored a little bit differently, and you'll get your scores online through their websites. The SAT is out of 1,600 points, where its 2 sections are scored out of 800 individually, and then they're added together to get your 1,600 score. The ACT, its 4 sections are all scored out of 36, and then that's averaged together to get your composite score out of 36. You're going to want to compare your score with your target schools and then see where you are. If you've met your biggest goals, congratulations, you don't ever have to take the ACT or SAT again. If you haven't quite hit the mark, it's okay and completely possible to improve your score, especially just after your first time. I went up 3 points between tests, and I've known others to jump as much as 7, 8, 9 for the ACT, so definitely possible. At this time, you might also want to consider the other test type. It might just suit you a little bit better. And I've shown over here the score comparison chart with the ACT and then the SAT, with the SAT having a bit of a range just because it's out of a larger score section. So, when you're deciding, you definitely want to consider maybe one of the other tests. But one thing about taking the same test type over is that you have the possibility to do what they call super scoring. And it means they'll take the best score out of each one of your subjects. So the best score out of each of those subjects to make your super score. So they'll combine those ones to get your new super score composite score. Some schools and scholarships will not take super scores, but other colleges and universities like WVU are happy to take your super score for admissions and scholarships. After that, you've got your scores. Step 6 is sending the scores. So your application to college is not complete until they receive those scores, unless they have specified that they don't need them this year because of the coronavirus. So just be careful with that and just definitely check in with each college and scholarship you're applying to. For each type, you can send your scores automatically to 4 different schools, but this is before your scores are released. This means from the day you register until you get your scores, which is about like 10 days out, you can select those 4 schools. A lot of people do it either when they register or on test day. There's like a little bubble section to fill out. So once you get your scores, there will be a fee to send them. But again, some fee waivers are available. Sending your scores automatically does mean that these schools will get them quickly, but also you won't know what your score is before they're sent out to your top colleges. So it's a little bit of a pro-con there for you. If you're planning on taking the test multiple times, maybe just put your safety schools the first time around. You can always send your scores later. There's never going to be a situation where you lose access to your schools. So that wraps it up. So steps 1 from 6 take you from deciding on your test to getting and sending out your scores. Remember, these tests are just numbers, but they are numbers that you have the ability to control and help get the foot in the door toward your future. So I hope this helps. Good luck. Start with step 1, and you can leave any questions on my email right there. Thanks.